Morning Sri Lanka. What a way to start the early AM than with Good Morning Sri Lanka on NTV Sports. I'm your host, Jason. Unfortunately, no one else has come to the studio, so I'll be here by myself. No, our first guest today has been on the show for a long time, and she is our go-to child expert. Anything you need to know about children, she is the key. Today's show is pretty much going to be, what would you do if you had to set up a birthday party for your child? What would be too much and too little? Where you draw the line. So without further ado, our next and our regular guest, Arundhati Sivagurunathan. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Jason.
Welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka, of course, and we are glad to have you back. Now today you wanted to speak to us about children's parties. How would you plan one, and what is too much and what is too little for your child?
Okay, good question. Now, planning a child's party can be loads of fun if you don't get too stressed out about it. So I feel a child's party should be in a way to get your inner child out, where you would like to have fun with your kid, right? Yeah. But instead, parents get really stressed out with the whole planning thing, right? So as you said, maybe I think we overstep that line and try to make it too much.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, because I went to a friend's kid's birthday party. It was only their second birthday maybe, and there were ponies and clowns, and I didn't really see how that would help the child. Would he even remember that birthday party, because there's so much going on?
It's like that. The child would remember, because everything is on TV and the recording and the pictures. Right. It's like, I think the parents are so proud that they have a 2-year-old kid, they want to throw this big party. Yeah. But the question mark is, I feel trying to keep it simple is the best way to have a successful birthday party. Okay. Right. For example, first thing is, I feel you need to have a theme. Okay. Not to have, as you said, too many things happening, like clowns and the ponies and so many things where it's a bit distracting for the guest and the kids. Right. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I got distracted with that pony. I was next to that pony the entire party. Yeah. But yes, continue.
Yeah. So you need to have a theme. Yeah. And maybe if you think having their favorite cartoon characters or their superheroes, right?
Let's take my future son, for example. My son would love his Batman. There you go. And the Superman and whatnot. All right, so we'll stick with Batman. So I would want to obviously make everything Batman related to my theme for my kids' party. From what do I put? Do I put like decorations? Do I have a Batman there at the party, or?
Well, it depends, Jason. Since you're such a fan, you might have a whole Warner Brother thing going on there. Yes. But if you keep it simple, if you're going on a superhero theme, you need to understand there are things which will be appropriate and non-appropriate according to the age. Right? Say if your future son is just 1-year-old, I mean, how much of Batman things are you going to have, right? So it will be obvious imitation, right? And the cups and the serviettes and whatever you want. But for me, I think the building block of a party is the activities plus the food.
Okay, the food. Yeah. All right, so food-wise, we come into the category of food. Do I still stick with the theme, or do I go for something healthy for my kids, all the kids around?
I feel with the food you have to stick to the theme, right? Maybe you cannot get everything in the shape of your theme, but many as possible, especially the timeless cake has to go with the theme, right? But now these days it's people like it to be trendy as well, so they look at more cupcakes kind of things, so which they can put up their decor and stuff. But the most point is, when I'm talking about activities, right, it should be one, age appropriate, plus it should be activities that doesn't finish in 2-3 minutes. right? So long lengthy activities. For example, so you're on the theme of Batman, maybe you get them to paint t-shirts of Batman, you know, stuff like that.
Or, you know, get a grappling hook and kind of do everything that Batman does.
No,
of course not. That wouldn't work.
And safety is also
safety is key. we push safety up here at MTV. All right, so fine, we give them activities to kind of last for a long time. Wouldn't that just knacker the kids out? Like, they'll be running around and then nap time. Is that part of the process?
I feel a successful kids party is where the child walks out exhausted. Right?
That's a new one. That's okay, fine.
Because that means the kid really had so much of fun for that few hours, because kids parties are not long parties.
That's
like
true,
you're starting, like, the younger the kid, earlier you start and earlier you finish, right? So we are looking at maximum 3 hours.
3 hours.
To 4.
Okay.
So I mean, I think the kids should do so many activities, which is so much of fun, and then they refuse to go home unless they're exhausted.
Right. True. Okay. So 5 things to kind of, or the things that I've learned that's best to get a party is stick to the theme. Make sure your food, again, sticks to the theme as well. Tire them out with fun activities, of course, and then you have a successful party.
Yes.
What else would go? Okay, now planning again is very hard. For me, if someone, all right, for example, if you take a husband and a wife, sometimes they would go overboard, like we spoke before. What is too little for a party? Let's say we go back to the 2-year-old again. What is too little for a 2-year-old?
Well, my personal opinion is, if a child is under 4 years old, right? So this is the time child is getting socially and emotionally exposed to the society, right? So they will have very few friends in the sense maybe they are playmates and family friends, right? And at this time, children are trying very hard to get into this social skill. So in my opinion, my personal opinion is that I think up to 4 years a kid should have a very small get together where they will feel very comfortable with the party and they can enjoy themselves. See, you throw a child who's less than 1 party big as inviting 100 guests. The first thing is the child is going to start crying because they don't know who all these people are. But if you make it to a small amount of very close people, like the family, friends, and his or her friends, but have it really nice and simple, I think that will be a better idea.
Right. Okay, so is it wise to, the older your child gets, gradually the more bigger the party is?
It could, because it should be, because that time the child is not scared of the social thing, and they have more friends, they are going to school.
That's right.
And plus, the fact is, the structure of a party should be going into detail when they are young. Right? When you are 4+, what happens is they will anyway have their own thing going on for them, right? So more freedom and more friends.
That makes sense. All right, on that note, we're going to a quick commercial break, but we'll be back with more of our empathy and our child's specialty awesomeness to speak about what should you get your child for their birthday. A present? Something good? Something bad? You never know. We'll know right after this break. Welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka. In case you just tuned in, we have our guest Arundhati Sivagurunathan, who's giving us her child's care specialty awesomeness. I'm just trying to throw in like amazing words because it is awesome. Raising kids is awesome, and we really need to find and know what we are doing when it comes to raising kids. So today's topic is focusing on parties. Now we kind of came to the conclusion that we have to stick to the theme. And if the kid is tired by the end of the party, we have thrown a successful one. So now we were getting into invitations again. You wanted to speak about that?
Well, invitations, what I meant was how you invite, how many people, and how you send the invitation. It's very important. Like, for example, if you are throwing a pool party or something like that, so you should specify to the parent what the child should bring along, right? And of course, if the child is young, you should always need to understand it should be the child plus another person. right? So you can't just invite only the child.
Yeah, of course, they're kids, so you have to invite their parents, like one of them.
One of them, right? And how you invite, it's very important, because if you want to only invite few people in the class and you don't want to invite the rest of them, you should be very diplomatic about it, right? So maybe you should be careful when you're giving out the invitation to a parent, not to offend the other parent. And of course, I feel a kids' party should be planned well ahead, about 30 days before, and once you give out the invitations, you need to follow up about 2 days before whether who's actually going to turn up.
So you're all right. So we have to obviously be discreet with the other parents. So we need to hire a ninja to kind of just go and deliver the. Okay, fine. So you kind of avoid the parents you're not inviting. You're like, hey, secretly
call online.
Call online, or just secretly like put a trench coat. Here's the invitation for your child. That's interesting. All right. So we get the invitation sorted. Now you also mentioned, if I stick to a theme, and we spoke about Batman, of course, I've noticed, like, not only do parents stick to themes, but they would just go all over the place with the theme. Like, for example, if there was a bouncy castle after Batman, they would go for that as well. If there was a black horse, they'd be like, oh, it's black, let's get a horse, because it's Batman. But still, like, what's too much and what's too little? We're getting to that, I know, again, but I really want to focus on that.
That's what I said. You need to plan it out, a theme, and you need to specify what you're going to have. Say, number one, you need to know where you're throwing the party.
Yes.
Right?
At my backyard.
So if it's at your backyard, the space is obviously limited, right? So how many things you're going to have in the backyard is up to you. But for me, if my child was having a theme party and I'm having around 20 kids coming along, that means 20 plus 1 is another parent. So there's 40 people in your backyard, right? So how many activities are you going to have? But the innovative part of it, when you're throwing an activity, it should be something the child will be active cognitively plus physically, right? So for the question you asked me, I would have a bouncy castle, because children love bouncy
they do, and they get tired faster when they jump up and down. So
and plus you will have some other activities which is not the traditional old school play kind of activities, but new stuff like making things, building things, you know.
Treasure hunt
will not match Batman.
Yes, no, you just have to fight the Joker and kind of get the find the treasure.
Stuff like, you know, you build the entire candy thing and, you know, break the
the piñata. Right, that's amazing. That's a good one. All right, so fun activities, food. Now I know sugar, like kids are usually hyper. They always are. And if you give them a bit of sugar, they just go all over the place. Is it right to have sugar at a party? Like, obviously a cake is going to have sugar, unless you find some sort of cake that doesn't have really sugar.
Oh, no, it's a party, it's a treat, you need to have some sugar. I will not say no. But when you talk about food, I think most parents have too many varieties available. I feel that especially the child is very young, younger than 3, something like, you know, if you could make simple things like even macaroni and cheese, and put it into a little containers for the kids, and maybe have something, 1 or 2 things extra, and separate stuff for the parents. But usually you have a huge table of food, right? And so much of variety, I feel most of it is not even enjoyed. So as I said, don't be scared to keep it simple.
So keep it simple with food variety to a minimum as much as you want. What is good food for kids though? Like, is like having like fatty foods, again, is that a treat? Does that count as a treat?
It depends. Now if it was me and if I have an indoor party, right? So if I had kids like young as 2 years coming in, I would actually not go into too much of variety, because kids would like very few things on their plate at that age, right? So for example, say macaroni and cheese, like, you know, make it very nice, and you can have your theme cup and put it, and maybe something extra a kid would like, right? Plus the cake and the drink. So that's a huge meal for a 2-year-old kid, right? But for parents, of course, you might not be able to serve the same quantity.
So you have a separate,
maybe separate another 2 things for them. But what I meant by variety is like, okay, for example, you have cake for sweets, right? Then most people have cake, then they have popsicles, they have so many varieties of the sweet.
Right.
I feel it is really not necessary. If you have one, call it.